I'm here with the artist known as Garbageface. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So, how do you pronounce your name? I know your first name is Carol or Carl.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, some people call me Karol and some people call me Karl.
Uh-huh.
In Polish, it's pronounced Karol.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Poland originally, so
Uh-huh.
that's where the odd name comes from.
Let's see. How do you pronounce your last name?
Uh, in Polish, it's pronounced Orzechowski.
Uh-huh.
In English, I would say Orzechowski.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that settled. So,
Yeah.
Drake Moore of 40 Octaves Below sends his regards.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I'll send my regards right back to him. I think I've only met him maybe once in person, but he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, quite a bizarrely amusing fella. According to my interview with
Yeah.
him. He wore this like Chucky S
Uh-huh.
mask the whole time. So
Okay.
I have a habit of only writing down one or two questions for my guests, and the rest is pretty much improvised. So here's the
That's
first
great.
one. Are there any good Nickelback songs?
Hmm. I haven't really listened to them a whole lot. Um, but weirdly, they're one of those bands that even if you don't try to listen to them, you just know their songs. I think we're kind of moving away from that as people listen to less radio, but um, yeah, I don't know how you remind me is okay. I don't know.
Okay.
You're right. It's a funny question to ask because one of the things that I get razzed by my friends about a lot is for liking Limp Bizkit.
hmm,
Um, and I mean, I don't like every Limp Bizkit song, but I like some of them.
mhm. Okay. Which ones?
Like the album Significant Other
Okay.
is uh is really good. If you
Hmm,
go back and listen to it, I would I would strongly recommend that out of their catalog. It was there's like 20 songs on the album or like 17 songs or something. It was back when CDs were just they went
uh,
on forever.
oh right. Yeah. That.
And there's like 17 songs. Five of them are like classics.
Hmm.
You know, five of them are really bad,
Hmm.
and then the other 10 or so are like pretty good, and I'd say that is an all right average.
Right. What's the album with the song "Rolling" on it? Like, I think that's the
That's on
only limp.
Significant Other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huh,
and it's great.
right. I thought it's called chocolate
Oh, it
flavor
might.
starfish or something.
Yeah, that might actually be on Chocolate Starfish.
Right. Yeah.
um yeah, Significant Other has break stuff. Oh gosh, I don't have it right in front of me, but yeah, break stuff is a big one on
Hmm.
that record. It's got and that was the record where Fred Durst really wanted to like legitimize himself as a rapper. So
Okay.
Method Man is on that
Oh, okay.
record and a bunch of other
Hmm.
rapper record.
I see.
There's like a guest appearance by the singer from Korn, but it's really bad. It's
Right.
one of the
Jonathan
worst.
Davis. Yes.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Right. The Yeah, we'll get to that later. My I think the first rock song that I heard is a Nickelback song, and it's called "Saving Me," and
Okay.
it's part of their 2005 album, "All the Right Reasons." Yeah,
Okay.
and
Are you a fan of theirs?
no, no, I'm not. I've only
No,
heard
no.
that one song, "Saving Me," and that's about it. So I don't have much of an opinion.
Okay.
Um,
Right.
so the second question that I wrote down is, what's your favorite Vanilla Ice song?
It's that because I recently read like a very long article about Vanilla Ice.
Hmm.
Um, so like when I was growing up, like I was born in '81, and so I think to the extreme out in like '89 or
Hmm.
maybe '90, and it was like huge album. Like, I mean, of course, Vanilla Ice was massive, and uh, you know, the funniest part though is that I know everybody kind of like clowns on him now and all of this stuff, but I read this extremely long article about sort of the history of that record, and the history of Vanilla Ice. And I didn't realize this, but he was like a legitimate. He was not like a record company. He wasn't like a boy band of rap. It
Mhm.
wasn't like a record company took him out of a mall or something and turned him into a rapper or whatever. He was like a legitimate guy. In fact, before he put out To the Extreme, um, Chuck D from Public Enemy was trying to sign him to Def
Wow.
Jam,
Wow.
and he was getting, and anytime he was from Dallas, Texas, and at the time, the rap scene in the US was very focused on New York and LA,
Hmm.
or like New York and California really. And and anything in between New York and California was kind of looked at like there wasn't really like regional scenes yet.
Hmm.
There wasn't like the Atlanta scene or the Houston scene or whatever. And
Hmm.
so he was from Texas, and anytime these like bigger rap groups would come through Texas, like Houston and Dallas, he would open for them.
Oh,
And
wow.
people loved him. People loved him especially because he could dance. And
Mm.
so he was like a singing, dancing rapper, and very well respected at the time. I didn't realize how, because when I was a kid, I thought he was cool, but that was when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and as I grew up more, I got kind of like you start when you're young, really just innocently loving music. And then when you become a teenager, you start to take the influences around you and you start to think like, oh, certain music is uncool. And as I've gotten older, I'm trying to like take away those the idea of like having a guilty pleasure like Limp Bizkit, where it's like,
Mhm.
I know people think Limp Bizkit is goofy, but the songs are really good. And so Vanilla Ice, it's been really interesting to read about Vanilla Ice because I thought he was just a total clown and that everyone thought he was goofy, but he was like a legitimate guy. And so, well, to answer your question, I don't really have a favorite. Like, I think, obviously, like Ice Ice Baby is funny and stuff. There was one song on that album called Having a Roni,
Okay.
which, and I remember like trying to find what Roni meant when I was a kid. And so I think it was what I figured out when I was a kid, which I don't know if it's true or not, but Roni was short for macaroni, and
Oh.
and macaroni was like a code word for weed, for
Oh.
marijuana. And
Huh.
so having a
Huh.
Roni was like smoking a joint. But I don't know if that's actually true. That was just like what my kid brain kind of like figured out from articles or whatever. But Having a Roni is a goofy song. I mean, they're all kind of goofy. There's a Canadian rapper that I really respect a lot, called Decisive, like D-Decisive, and he created a remake of To the Extreme. Like
Okay.
he redid the beats,
Hmm.
he re-rapped everything, and put it out as like a tribute to, to Vanilla Ice. It's the same. He didn't change the lyrics. He just like rapped the lyrics himself. He made kind of like updated beats to it, and it's so good. It's so good.
All right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you ever listen to Vanilla Ice?
I know
You're
of
probably too
him.
young.
I know of him. Yes, of course. Ice Ice Baby is the song,
Yeah.
and I would say my favorite song is the his rendition of "Play That Funky Music."
Hmm.
And it's funny. I know of him because I used to be really into Adam Sandler movies.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was like 12 or 13,
Yeah.
and there's a movie starring Adam Sandler and Andy Samberg from Lonely Island fame called "That's My Boy," and Vanilla Ice appeared as himself, and he's referred to as Uncle Vanny.
Right. Yeah. Well,
And
his
yeah,
his name is like Van
Van
Winkle.
Winkle. Yeah, Van
Yeah.
Winkle.
Which is too funny, man. Like his whole, like when you read his biography,
Oh
it's
wow.
it's so fun. Like his life story is just bizarre. Is very bizarre. And even to this day, I think he's like making really good money doing a TV show about home renovation.
All right. Yeah, I think it's on A&E or something, right?
Yeah. And like I'm just like, you know what, dude? Good for him. Like, I don't know.
And then Ice Goes Amish as well. That's a good one.
What? Really?
Yeah, yeah, Vanilla Ice Goes Amish.
Oh my god, I would watch that.
Right. So where does the name Garbage Face come from?
Garbageface comes from were you ever a Simpsons fan?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Yes, I
okay.
am.
So you know the episode where Lisa gets to create her own Malibu Stacy doll?
Okay. Tell me more.
It's in I don't know, I think like season 6 or 7 or something, but um Lisa gets to make her own Malibu Stacy doll because she writes to the company because she thinks that Malibu Stacy is like too stupid, basically.
Hmm.
Because there's a you pull a string on the back of the doll and it says like, I can't do math, I'm just a girl or whatever. And so Lisa gets really upset by that and calls into the writes to the company. So the
Hmm.
CEO of the company decides to let her create her own like a feminist Malibu Stacy doll.
Hmm.
And Bart is jumping around the room. They're trying to come up with a name for the Malibu Stacy doll, and Bart is jumping around the room, just acting like a maniac and yelling out names that he thinks the Malibu Stacy doll should be called. And one of the names that he yells out is "Stupid Lisa Garbageface."
Ah.
And I just thought Garbageface was a funny name. I don't know.
Hmm.
I initially put out the first release as Garbageface in like 2005,
Hmm.
and then I didn't put out anything for a long time after that, or I guess until 2009, and just kept using the name, and I don't know. Seems to it just kind of stuck like that.
Well, it did catch on, unlike macaroni to referring to wheat. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and
I'm gonna try and bring Roni back on.
uh, all right, all right. Well, good luck on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe this conversation might be the seed to like maybe like 5 or so years from now, people
Totally. Five
smoke a
years from now, people are gonna be saying they're having a Roni.
yep, have a roni.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was intrigued when I hear what you're doing is doom metal rap, and because what I find is that there's a history of rap rock crossovers, and there are a lot of like really successful examples, like Run DMC and Aerosmith, and
Right.
um,
Limp
Ice
Bizkit.
T, sure,
Yeah.
Ice T's band Body Count. But
Oh
for
yeah,
the
that's
most
right.
part, people tend to think of new metal,
Hmm.
and that is where I think rap and rock fusion kind of like meets its end. So, but again, as we've discussed right before the chat, I listened to your latest record. It's called Defenestation, and I thought
Hmm.
it's incredible. It's really good
Oh,
stuff.
thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doom rap uh, name is kind of like a more of an idea and less of like a direct. Like I'm not so much. Definitely in the early days, I was more trying to like kind of put two genres together in a way, like kind of do like a genre mashup. And I was sampling metal albums and stuff like that. Um, but of course, like over time, it's become less about the sort of like idea, or it's become less about the sound of doom metal and more about kind of the ideas and the philosophy in it. For me, doom is very much like it's a genre that, um, in terms of music, is very slow. I mean, slow tempos, but the songs kind of unfold slowly. Things kind of move in a. It's definitely on the progressive side of things. Like songs kind of unfold in this way that isn't necessarily like a verse chorus kind of thing. And then the lyrical themes of doom metal, you know uh existentialism and death and these things are things that I talk about a lot in my work. And for me, the idea of doom rap is kind of like I suppose you could even just call it existentialist rap or something like that. It's more based on kind of like a philosophy and a philosophical standpoint rather than a genre thing. Although I still listen. I listen to a lot of doom metal. Um, it doesn't necessarily. Um, I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to do rap rock necessarily.
Okay.
Although there's me and my friend Matt Jarvis. We talk about having a rap rock group, and we even have a name. We would be called Generic Dudes. and and we're working on an album. When I say working on an album, I mean like we're mostly just talking about it, not actually writing any music.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Do let me know when that project comes to fruition.
absolutely.
Yeah. And do you listen to the band Sun?
I do, yeah, and I actually got to see Sun a few years ago.
Oh, that's nice.
Um, yeah, I saw them at the Hearn Generating Station. It was part of the Unsound Festival,
Hmm.
and it's this festival that happens in Toronto. And I saw them it was inside an old power plant,
Wow.
and um, it's like this very interesting festival. A lot of really like forward thinking musicians and a lot of strange art. And you know you kind of walk around this big building, and then there's music playing. There's this stage area where there's music, and it's a huge room. Like the ceilings are like 5 or 6 stories high. Like it's
Wow.
enormous. And Sun was like easily one of the loudest shows I've ever seen. Like easily one of the loudest shows I've ever seen. And it was so cool and scary because I was kind of standing a little bit further back. And while they were playing, you could see it was almost like snow falling from the ceiling. There was like little pieces
Oh.
of like paint from the ceiling were like falling down like snow.
Hmm.
And it was scary because it was like everyone starts like looking up, like
Hmm.
that's not supposed to be happening.
Wow.
Like this is so loud that are the ceilings going to cave in or whatever, are the like you know and of
Oh.
course like the bass was just unbelievably. um I felt sick like after like 10 minutes. It was awesome. And the funniest part, like I like Sun a lot. I wouldn't say they're one of my favorite bands or anything, but like I really respect what they do. And I really badly wanted to see them. But um after like an hour and 20 minutes, I just left. I was like, they were still playing. I didn't know how long.
Wow. Oh
I
my
didn't know
God.
how. I didn't know how long that they would keep playing
Oh.
for, and it was a weird situation because I kind of just felt like I understand now. Like I understand what this is about. I don't ever need to see them again.
Okay.
Like it was one of the best shows I've ever seen,
Hmm.
but it was also an experience where I thought to myself, like, if I don't ever see this band again, that's okay. Like
Hmm.
I got to see them in this really cool venue. It was it sounded amazing. I got more than my fill of like the music.
Hmm.
And then I was just like, okay, I'm good. Like I'm good. I can go home now. They're not over, but I can go home now.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
That was in, I think that was in 2016, like
Mm,
summer of 2016.
right.
Yeah.
I think they were may have been promoting their album Canon,
Oh,
their
maybe. Yeah.
2015 release.
Are you a big fan of theirs?
Oh yeah, I am. I haven't seen them, but I do like them a lot. Monolith and Dimension. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorite records.
Yeah, I have a record of theirs, the Domkirk, or I don't know how it's pronounced. It's like the O has a line through it, and it's
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure it's a Swedish word, but Domkirk, it's a live performance from a chapel
Right.
in Norway,
Hmm.
and incredible, just an
Hmm.
incredible record.
Oh yeah, I know of that. I enjoyed that album a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you listen to a lot of like doom metal bands and or like drone music and things like that?
um a lot. Yeah. Anything that I find interesting. I'm actually really big on this Norwegian black metal artist Burzum, despite
Okay.
knowing that he's kind of a dick.
Okay.
Varg Vikernes. Yeah, his early days records are really amazing. Like he pushed all the boundaries of noise and sound, and even the
Right.
thematic elements of all that.
I will admit I have never listened to a Burzum record and just have no interest, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I mean, nothing really about, there, every once in a while I think there are musicians like that that I, like I don't know, like Gigi Allen or something like that,
Right,
where
that guy.
I've not I'll admit this too. I've never listened to a Gigi. I've never heard a Gigi Allen. I think I've maybe heard a song here and there
Hmm.
just to like see, but it's not good. Like it's not good, or not good to me. And
Hmm.
so, every once in a while there are artists like that that I think, um, and I know a lot of people quite respect the early Burzum albums for being, pretty important to Norwegian black metal for sure. But I don't know, man. Nothing about that guy appeals to me. Like even his like kind of contrarian whatever. I just
Hmm.
like don't. Um, I don't know. To each their own. Like I mean, you know, uh, there's so much music out there to listen to that like
Hmm.
it's. Uh, I I sometimes think like there's almost too much to listen to, where it's like I wouldn't mind necessarily listening to it as just to see what it's like, but I feel like already right now I have 100 albums of MP3s on my computer
Wow.
that I haven't even listened to yet or whatever,
Hmm.
just like stuff that I've bought that I've said like, oh, I'll listen to this later, and still or like records that I have that I've bought that I still haven't listened to yet because it's just like
Hmm.
there's so much out there. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
but what do you like about Burzum?
His music, of course. I mean, not his character, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Again,
yeah,
like
that
his music is really boundary pushing, and
mm,
I think more than enough of the Norwegian black metal people, they are known for doing these controversial and subversive
right.
stuff like burning down churches and
Mhm.
self mutilating themselves on stage and whatnot. But for the most part, I think Burzum, even though he was part of that rock band Mayhem,
Right.
he focused a lot more on the music than the
Mhm.
spectacle. And
You know, and the interesting thing that I feel like gets like lost in a lot of the discussion about like Norwegian black metal and stuff like that is like they were kids.
mhm.
they were
Oh
like
yeah.
they were like 19, 20,
Hmm.
you know, they were like 20 to 22 or 3-year old kids, basically, like what I would consider kids, right? Like
Hmm.
goofy teenagers. I mean, not goofy, they're killing each other and burning down churches, but you know what I mean? Like in this like weird way, they were goofy in the sense that like they were um you know, they're rebellious kids basically,
Hmm.
and rebelling against the you know, against authority in their own context. And in the
Hmm.
context of Norway, the authority was, you know, the Christian church, right? And I mean, I can identify, you know, I come from Poland, and the Catholic church there is extremely powerful. You know,
Hmm.
it's, I think like 80% of people in Poland are Catholic, or something like 90% of people in Poland are Catholic, and 80% of them go to church regularly. And it's a very repressive Catholic country. You know, and those Norwegian guys were rebelling against the thing, you know, the thing that was uh you know, the authority in their context, where
Hmm.
it got kind of like, I think where I started to sort of like, I definitely understand the idea of like separating art from the artist,
Hmm.
you know, in different contexts, and I think everybody does that. Even people who say that they don't do that will do, you know, like not everybody for example, like um not everybody has like stopped listening to Michael Jackson.
No.
You know, not everybody has like stopped listening to Kanye West or whoever.
Hmm.
You know, like
Hmm.
there's artists every day that are just like absolute shitheads,
Hmm.
um, and we still listen to them. I think for me, the thing with the Norwegian scene that got, you know, as they grew up and became more like fully formed adults, some of them kind of stopped being these like goofy meathead teenagers who believed in, I don't know, burning down churches or whatever, and just became goofy meathead adults
Hmm.
who like, you know, so
Hmm.
it's some of them actually kind of, for lack of a better word though, grew out of it a little bit and
Hmm.
became more mature people,
Oh
um,
yeah.
which was interesting to see. Like I know there's been like lots of documentaries and stuff about it, but yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah, it's the same as say when punk turns into post-punk because for the most part, punk bands do not have a a decades-long lifespan or whatever.
no, but some punks have a decade-long lifespan, and it's really
Of
weird to
course,
see.
yeah.
You know, it's really weird to see a lot of punks turn like, you know, what's the what's the guy's name? Michael Graves or whatever from the
Hmm.
Misfits is
Okay,
like a total "Make America Great Again" like
right.
Republican guy. You know, and like, not that the Misfits were ever like political,
Hmm.
really, like, you know, they weren't like a political punk band by any means, um but I think because punk kind of like, people gravitate towards an anti-authoritarian kind of viewpoint,
Hmm.
that it's so weird to see punks kind of get older and become really conservative.
Oh yeah, I think John Lydon is part of that too. Like,
Oh my god, he's a yes. Yeah, exactly.
but I think post-punk intrigues me way more than punk rock because I think you hear a punk song. I think ostensibly you've heard them all, but post-punk they go into like directions that you wouldn't even expect. Like recently I listened to Nick Cave's early albums as the Birthday Party, and
Okay.
it has the transgressive nature of punk rock, but it has the musically and sonically it's very experimental, and that's what intrigued me. And I think one of the drawbacks I think of punk, and one of the reasons why it didn't last too long, is that, well, when you finish, like, venting your anger and whatnot, what's next? Like, the
Mm-hmm.
Sex Pistols only had one album, not really just because Sid Vicious passed away, but because I think the second Sex Pistol album, I believe, wouldn't be as good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I quite like post-punk as well, and got really into, um, the Discord Records kind of
Mhm.
scene. But largely for, like, I mean, yeah, lyrically, definitely, but for aesthetic reasons too. Like, I thought the post-punk, I mean, especially the Discord Records kind of sound was so appealing to me. It was punk, but it was so strange, and um, had all of these, had a lot more like space in it. There was not these like big walls of guitars and just like da-na-na-na-na. Like, it wasn't like that. It was very like there was a lot of like air in those recordings. You could hear the room a lot. You could imagine yourself standing in the room and listening to the music. And actually, I lived in Ottawa for a brief period of time in the early 2000s, and there was an incredible post-punk scene in Ottawa at the time, and a lot of basement shows, and a lot of like really incredible bands that were, um, yeah, just killer. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, post-punk cannot quite exist without punk rock, and I think one of the most important legacies of punk rock is that it shows that anyone can pick up a guitar and do music,
Right.
and it makes music itself, at least popular rock, more democratic and populist in that sense.
Right. But that's also, I mean, it's funny that you bring that up, because I've thought about this a lot lately, with like the amount of music that there is out there, and the amount of people making music out there,
Mhm.
and just the sheer, yeah, just the sheer numbers of it. And it's yeah, for me, it always brings up the question of like, okay, well, at this point, anybody can put out an album, really.
Mhm.
Anybody can record an album, but should everybody record an album? Like,
Mhm.
there's a, and it's, I mean, I think it's something a lot of artists struggle with. It's like, um quality control,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, like, because I really appreciate the democratic sort of aspects of
Mhm.
technology now, where it's quite easy to, it used to, when I was in bands in the 90s, and I remember we would play shows and we would save up the money from all of those shows, because to record, we one of the bands I was in high school, we made like a CD demo,
Mhm.
and it was a 10-song demo, and we recorded it at a professional recording studio in Peterborough, and it cost us thousands of dollars, like
Mhm.
that, like thousands of dollars for the price, for the money that we paid for that album. We could have bought more than enough gear to record it ourselves at home now.
Mhm.
We could have bought a computer, we could have bought lots of microphones, we could have like,
Mhm.
we could have done it all ourselves for that price. But at the time, there was no other option. And so I do really like that anybody can make music now, but should everybody? It's like,
Mhm.
there's so much noise out there. Like, not noise music, but just like, there's just so much out there. And maybe, I don't know, if is it good? Like, I don't mean quality wise. Like, is it good to have infinity amounts of music, or is it bad? I don't know.
Of course, you would, the kind of like the low quality or the mediocre stuff will always outnumber the good ones, and
Right.
I think once you like seek out beyond all the top 40 radio stuff or the ones that's getting massively popular right now, you would likely stumble upon like really like mind-blowing stuff. And I don't really have a problem with like people having the ability to make music with ease.
Hmm.
I mean, I think back in the 80s or so, or late 70s, the synthesizer was becoming, popular, and people can use it at home now. And
Hmm.
of course, a crop of like really awful synth pop came about. But then there were also guys like Giorgio Moroder, who's like
Right.
one of the greatest musical innovators ever. So yeah, I think for the most part, I just take the good with the bad, and it just and I think you mentioned about separating the art from the artist. I think I'm not the one who do that. I just take them as they are. Of course, the good and the bad. You know,
Hmm.
I think Off the Wall is the greatest Michael Jackson album. Uh, I mean, it's a kind of an unpopular opinion. People would gravitate towards Thriller or Bad, but yes, of course,
Yeah.
I know that Michael Jackson is not the most mentally or emotionally stable person, and he definitely have done things with children that you and I would not do.
No.
But still, I mean, he revolutionized pop music, and that's something that I appreciate.
Yeah, it's such a, for me, I think for serious music fans, it's a complicated question, right?
Mhm.
Because yeah, a lot of these people are extremely problematic, like as humans, right? Like as artists, they've done incredible things, but as people, they're just horrible. And it's it kind of it's it's an interesting question to me, because it kind of it makes me want to understand what people's expectations are, like
Mhm.
what we expect of public figures, is really, um, I mean, I think it's safe to, in the case of Michael Jackson or whoever, I think that it's like probably fair to say, well, I mean, we expect people to not molest children.
Of course, yeah.
I think that's a pretty like fair expectation to have. But
Mhm.
when you get into other sort of like, um, for example, like with the Burzum example, like
Mhm.
he's a white supremacist,
Of
like
course, yeah.
but and and murderer.
Yes,
but
that
yeah,
too.
but he went to jail and he did his time and stuff like that. And so it's like, if you believe in the prison system as a penalty box or
Mhm.
whatever, like he did the crime and then he did the time and now he's out. And so it's like, well,
Mhm.
that's his apology for murdering someone.
Mhm.
um but as far as his beliefs go, like, um it's, they're abhorrent, but as far as I know, he's not doing anything
Mhm.
about it other than just thinking about it.
Mhm.
And I I mean, I think people should be allowed to think whatever they want.
Of course,
Like,
yeah.
you know, uh, and that's where, like, I don't know, R. Kelly or Michael Jackson or whoever, like that's where it crosses into a different territory, because these are
Mhm.
people who did things
Right, yeah.
that were really abhorrent. And
Mhm.
I think that it's fair to look at those people and say, like, ugh, like that's, maybe I
Mhm.
don't want to listen to their music anymore. When it
Mhm.
comes to someone who's has uh, problematic opinions, it's like, well, so many people I know have problematic opinions,
Mhm.
you know. um, Maybe not to that extent, and
Mhm.
they don't have the platform, but yeah, anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a good dilemma to think about, and for the most part, I would just say if you like a piece of music or anything, and you find out that the person making it might be not as ideal as you think he is, well, I think it's better to just accept that, and well, at least you enjoyed it. At least that piece of music made your life a little bit better. So that's one piece of good thing right there. Um,
Well, and
and
it's like checking your expectations, right? Like,
oh yeah,
I remember I remember being really confused a few years ago. Do you remember that guy, Dog the Bounty Hunter?
oh yeah, I know of him.
Yeah,
A and
Dog the
E.
Bounty Hunter. Yeah, A&E. So I never really watched the show, but I knew of the guy or whatever.
Mhm.
And he was he's a dude who lives in a swamp or whatever, and he has a big mullet, and he 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 hunts people
Mhm.
for money.
Oh yeah.
And then it turns out, and he has this TV show and all of this stuff. And then it turns out he's a big Southern racist.
Mhm.
He's just a huge racist. And
Mhm.
it's like, and people were so upset and saying, cancel the show and whatever. And I was like, what did people expect?
Mhm.
This guy's his name's not Nice Guy, the bounty hunter. He's he's a bounty hunting, mullet having
Mhm.
guy who lives in a swamp. Like, I can't believe that people expected him to have like progressive politics.
No,
I was just
no.
like, so in certain cases, it's like we raise these people, like we raise people up to be celebrities,
Mhm.
and then when they don't fit our image, we tear them down. And it's I don't think that they're victims or anything like that.
No.
Like, I don't think that they're victims at all, but I think we play a role in that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't expect like Phil Robertson from the show Duck Dynasty to, waving that rainbow flag and whatnot. But it would be funny if that actually happens.
I mean,
Like,
that would be cool, but yeah, I doubt it.
which
Probably not.
yeah, which I'm reminded of this Amazon Prime show called The Boys. If you have ever seen it,
No, I've never seen it.
it's based on a graphic novel series by Garth Ennis, and it follows like a world in which what if like superheroes actually exist in this like timeline, like the make it as realistic as ever, and apparently superheroes are really just are treated as celebrities, but in
Hmm.
reality they are power hungry maniacs.
Right.
And yeah, you got these normal, like what do you call it, blue collar people. They they basically are the resistance against this superhero madness. And these like super people, they are owned by a multinational company, and they yeah, they are respected and loved and adored by the fans, but virtually no one knows that they hurt people on a daily basis, and then they engage in hedonistic lifestyles.
I mean, one of the funniest things that I heard recently, that kind of speaks to this a little bit. I mean, not nearly on the same level. It's not like problematic in the same way that being a white supremacist is or whatever. But I remember hearing recently that Barack Obama is like a chain smoker. Like, he
Oh
smokes
really?
cigarettes like mad,
Huh.
like a pack a day.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, they did such an amazing job of like covering that up,
Mhm. Oh
so that
okay.
you never saw him with a cigarette ever.
Hmm. Wow.
Amazing. I just thought that was incredible. And it's like, there, I think, a lot of people, even the people that we think, I mean, look at Ellen, right? Like, Ellen got into all kinds of trouble recently because she has this public image as like
Hmm.
a very clean, very like kind. Her show is all about kindness, but apparently she's a tyrant to work for, and it's like, so then she gets exposed and it becomes this big thing, but it's because she has this image that we've invested ourselves into
Hmm.
that's a certain way. And when we find out that she's just like any other celebrity and is an asshole to people that work for her, it's
Hmm.
like, oh well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's one of the ways, one of the few issues that we have, like as a society, is how do we manage disillusionment? Like, so I know of this guy Edward Snowden. Uh,
Right. Yep.
yeah, we all know of him, and apparently his story is really interesting. He joined the military first before he joined the NSA because he
Hmm.
believed that the Iraq War was you know at least morally justifiable.
Hmm.
Once he found out that that is not the case, he moved on to he actually worked for a private contractor that the NSA hires to do stuff, and he believed that working for
Right. Booz
intelligence
Allen or whatever.
agency would would be of service. But then he found out that the NSA and all of the other agencies across the globe are actively targeting his own citizens, and he become he has become quite disillusioned. And but still, he's one of those guys who, even though he is very pessimistic about the state of humanity, he is very optimistic about the potential of humanity. Because even when that happens, he found a journalist from the Guardian named
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Greenwald.
Mm-hmm.
He's been like extremely helpful. Like the two has become like incredible friends and all that. And one thing you like about Glenn is that he is very principled. Like he is not willing to be bought and sold, and he is willing to expose those who have been bought and sold.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's that. There's that balance between being cautiously optimistic about what the potentials that human can reach, and being very very wary of the lows that humans can sink to.
I mean, that's a good actually like a good way of summing up what a lot of my lyrics are about. It's
Okay.
like I think it's a very hopeful. I think a lot of the things I write are actually very hopeful, but on the surface seem very bleak
Hmm.
because things are very bleak on the surface. But I think there's infinite possibilities to what people can do and uh, and how we can like process the world. But there's a lot of darkness too.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's quite a good closer there. So, Garbage
great.
Face, thank you for being on the show.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas to you too, and have a good season. Stay warm out there.
Thank you.